clearly the live free or die rhetoric did not resonate with this woman, because she's down there in Massachusetts and she's very, very, very liberal. So liberal that now she's complaining because everybody is leaving the state of Massachusetts, she says. Everyone is leaving the country. Part of the reason they had her on was because of what's going down at Harvard University. You'll recall, of course, Donald Trump putting a stop order on the $9 billion of U.S. taxpayer funding that one Harvard University gets. It's estimated between $2 and $9 billion, I should say. Anyway, Harvard, because they have not promised to get rid of DEI, they have not promised to protect students against anti-Semitism on campus, is now in the crossfire here, or the crosshairs of this administration. And so the administration is saying, guess what? We don't need to give you this money. And by the way, this just broke actually moments ago. Donald Trump's administration is not only saying we don't need to give you any money, but we actually can take this a step further and remove your accreditation. So you will no longer be an accredited school, thereby not allowing students to have access to, say, federal funding, Perkins loans, et cetera, that they might be able to use, or loans in general, right, that the government provides to go to these schools. So this is turning into a big uproar. I think it's kind of fair of him to say, look, I want to make sure that you can enforce the Constitution and make sure that there's no anti-Semitism on campus. I want to make sure that you're enforcing the Constitution and being fair and equitable to all students. But the governor of Massachusetts feels a little differently. Let's listen to her and we can talk about it.
Well, this is bigger than Harvard, and I stand with Harvard. I support what they are doing. It is very, very important that Harvard file that suit and stand up to the bully that Trump is. But let me tell you how it's playing out, because it's not just at Harvard. It's attacks on colleges and universities, on research institutions across Massachusetts, across this country. Mm-hmm. And here are the consequences right now. So already, I was on the campus of UMass Medical just last week. Because of Donald Trump's cuts, they've had to lay off 200 faculty members. They've had to rescind offers to 80 graduate students. Mika, these are scientists, okay? These are people who are discovering and working on life-saving cures for cancer, Alzheimer's, ALS, you name it. And all of that is being shut down. Here's what also is happening, which Americans need to know. The ones benefiting from Donald Trump's misguided attacks on our universities and on research are benefiting China. China is recruiting right now on our campuses all those scientists and faculty members and students who've been laid off or had their offers rescinded and say, come to China, we'll build you that lab, we'll give you staff. So for a president who is about America first, he's making America last, he's making us weaker, he's making us less competitive, and it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to know that patients will suffer. They're already suffering, Mika, because we've had clinical trials shut down as a result of his dismantling of NIH funding, and that's compounded now by his effort to attack universities, and compounded by the attacks on our foreign students, right? He's scaring, for a guy who wants to reshore American talent, right? I mean, he is driving everyone, including American students and faculty members, out of this country because they want to be able to do their research somewhere. So this is a very dangerous situation, totally destabilizing, and it's really pointing America in the wrong direction.
Okay. Is everyone really leaving the country, or is that just Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres? Oh yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second because we have a few things to say about them. But here's the thing, like, she's going on, okay, he's getting everybody out of the country, like this is a big problem. I actually think that what is happening is a fundamental shift. Think about the liberalism in academia, if you would. Like, you couldn't actually be a conservative and have any kind of real role there at Harvard University. I mean, that is you're not going to make tenure. You think you're going to make tenure as a professor if you actually, I don't know, believe in capitalism, dare I say? You know, you have all of these people that think alike and that want to be able to use the law to take down Donald Trump, to take down conservatives, to take down speech, except when it behooves them, right? Then they flip it around and suddenly, okay, now, this is all about First Amendment. No, you don't have a First Amendment right to discriminate against kids with the anti-Semitic behavior that we have seen on these college campuses to make them not feel safe. Not feel safe. And by the way, don't take my word for it. Look what they had to do at Columbia University last spring. They had to shut down classes. Look what they had to do with Columbia's graduation. They had to kill the graduation. Why? Because nobody was safe. I'm sorry. You've lost me at that point, okay? Like, people deserve the right to be able to go to an academic place, exchange ideas freely, and that's not being allowed. It's not being allowed. So Donald Trump's like, you know what? I'm going to put my foot down. We're going to change this. And we're not going to have this kind of insane liberalism that is not beneficial to our country at all, nor beneficial to this generation of students. We got to get rid of it. So take it or leave it. I'm sorry. Like, this is the new world order. This is what you guys were afraid about. I'm sorry, because we actually want to put America first. You're worried that everybody's leaving the country? I don't think so. I think it's just Ellen and Rosie, okay? Fine. Good riddance. Ellen and Rosie. Rosie O'Donnell sharing new details of her life, going on, I guess, CNN to talk about how wonderful life is overseas. By the way, I guarantee it probably is. I mean, Ireland is a fantastic, fabulous place. They have one of the highest per capita incomes in the entire world, higher than the US actually. And everybody's super duper nice. Like, it's one of the most chill places I've ever been. I spent a lot of time there. I have family there. I think it's fantastic, okay? So I'm happy, Rosie, that you are happy in Ireland. That is great. Most people would be happy in Ireland. It was a very happy, very nice place. But what's interesting about it is that this is all so politically motivated, right? So here she is going on to CNN, doing a little interview. I'll show you an excerpt, and then we'll talk about what she had to say about none other than one Ellen DeGeneres, who also left. In her case, it was actually for the UK, not for Ireland. Let's watch.
Of battle plans were not classified.
Actually, oopsie, that was poor Larry. Lawrence O'Donnell, you don't want to hear him anymore, right? Trying to tell us that the market was just going to be a mess. You see, I got my O'Donnells confused. We Irish, apparently we're all over the media. Anyway, here she is talking about how she moved to Ireland. It was the greatest thing in the world, you know, because now she's away from Trump. I would just say, like, this is not cool. This is just not cool. Because she's politicized it so much. Here we go.
I have no regrets. Not a day has gone by that I thought it was the wrong decision. I was welcomed with open arms. I knew after reading Project 2025 that if Trump got in, it was time for me and my non-binary child to leave the country. And although I was not one of the celebrities who announced that that's what I would do, I made the decision within my family and my therapist, and should he win, and then when he did, we made the plan into action, and we were gone before he was inaugurated.
I'm glad the therapist was involved. Apparently, she just couldn't emotionally handle it if Donald Trump were president, which he now is. I mean, the scary thing about this, you guys, is that she's not the only one, right? There are a lot of people that emotionally can't handle it. I mean, 2016, it blew me away. All the divorces that were happening because of Trump. I mean, come on. Like, that's when you know the media has taken it too far. That's when you know perhaps you're consuming a little too much of it. You know, you're consuming what Jen Psaki told us, as we talked about in the beginning of the show, knows to not entirely be truthful, but only a particular bias and viewpoint. And so because you're only hearing that from MSNBC or even CNN or the New York Times or what have you, you are being spoon-fed one version of the quote-unquote truth. It's actually not the truth, because you can't just sit there and say, like MSNBC tried to, oh, there's no inflation under Joe Biden when prices are up 9%, and cumulatively, they're up even higher, right? They actually gaslit America to death with that stuff. And so I think conservatives are like looking at it going, yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Liberals, on the other hand, liberals were freaking out to the point where now you have some, like Ellen and Rosie, leaving the country. So she also talked about Ellen and Ellen DeGeneres' move to leave the country. And this I found kind of interesting, if you would, because she's saying that she's sort of surprised by that. So I'm going to quote here from the New York Post, who writes, "Last month, O'Donnell revealed that she and her child were in the process of obtaining their Irish citizenship following their transatlantic move. So that's the thinking, right? She's going to move perhaps permanently. I don't know. Is she going to give up her U.S. citizenship? I doubt it. Anyway, her move followed closely that of fellow comedian Ellen DeGeneres, who set up camp permanently in the Cotswolds in England with her wife, Portia de Rosie. It's kind of interesting. You know, the UK court came out just the other day and actually ruled that a woman, for the sake of the law, is somebody who was born biologically a woman. Oh yeah, that's the UK court. So, you know, good luck with all that, Ellen. So she moved over there with Portia, while O'Donnell, it says, hasn't been in touch with the former talk show host. She admitted she was shocked to learn DeGeneres and the Arrested Development actress ditched Hollywood. Quote, I've never really known Ellen to say anything political in her life, so I was surprised to read that and that she left because of President Trump. Like, that shocked me, actually. Really? Do you think it was because of President Trump? Or do you think it was because of all that Diddy stuff? Remember, we've talked about that. We should probably link to one of those Diddy videos. But she was quite tight with one Diddy, and so tight that she called him something McStuffings on Twitter. She went to some of those parties, and there are allegations out there, or reports or rumors that, you know, maybe she knows a little bit more than she should, and maybe that's why she had to get out. Sky News, I think, or the Australian version of it, did some little bit on it where they kind of questioned why it was that one Ellen DeGeneres was actually leaving the country and whether or not that was more related to Sean Diddy Combs as opposed to, well, you know, actually Donald Trump. I mean, I'm sure she doesn't have any use for Donald Trump too, but it's a little bizarre, right? Like, it's a little bit bizarre, this I'm going to up and leave because of that. With Rosie, I don't necessarily doubt it. Ellen did sell her house for some $96 million. Let's see if I can show you this one. Wow. So the pad of Portia de Rosie and Ellen DeGeneres looks like quite a place there out in California. That went for $96 million. So, you know, I wonder if she had to pay half in taxes. You know, when you leave the country, this is kind of like you can check in, but you can't check out. Maybe they ought to remind the migrants of that. You actually have to pay half of your net worth in a big, giant tax pool because they want to make sure that, you know, you're not taken off for Malta or the Cayman Islands, basically, and you know, there's a penalty involved. So they went and they sold all their assets, assuming, you know, I assume maybe they actually had to pay up in taxes. If not, maybe the IRS will still come find them. But the question was, why did she do this? It was a little bit bizarre, and was it really and truly entirely political? I'm not so sure about that. And again, these broadcasters here over on something called is it Sky News? It's the Australian version of this. And I'm wondering if I can play it for you. Let's take a listen.
They're losing their minds.
She sounded so sincere, didn't she?
Very
she could
sincere.
Virtually choke on her words. But the best one for me is Ellen DeGeneres, who is, by the way, a very nasty person. I've had dealings with her in Australia.
Could
I tell you some stories about that cow? But anyway, good riddance to her. But you know, she was quite friendly with that P. Diddy bloke, wasn't she?
Well, this is why I say release the Diddy files.
Yeah.
Release
so,
the Diddy files. Come on, Donald Trump. We want to know whose name.
So maybe she's hightailing out of there before all that is thrown at her as well. But what a bunch of hypocrites. I wonder if
I don't know. Do you guys have a view on it? I mean, it's kind of peculiar, but look, the Massachusetts governor is worried Donald Trump is driving everyone out. I would say, you know, calm down. For now, it only seems to be the loss of Rosie and Ellen, and I think we can withstand that. Right?